What if I told you that the greatest prison you'll ever experience has no walls, no bars, and no locks? It's built entirely inside your own mind. Every dream you've abandoned, every opportunity you've ignored, every word you've swallowed instead of speaking, behind all of them stands one invisible force: fear. But here's the disturbing part. Fear isn't always trying to protect you. Sometimes it's quietly controlling your entire life without you ever noticing. By the end of this video, you'll never look at fear the same way again, because the greatest danger isn't being afraid. It's allowing fear to decide who you become. Fear is one of the oldest survival mechanisms in human history. Long before cities, technology, or civilization existed, fear kept our ancestors alive. A sudden movement in the bushes could mean a predator. A strange sound in the darkness could signal danger. Those who reacted quickly survived, while those who ignored fear often didn't. Over thousands of years, our brains became incredibly efficient at detecting threats. The problem is that while the world evolved, our brains didn't evolve nearly as fast. Today, the predators are rarely lions or wolves. Instead, they're job interviews, public speaking, rejection, failure, loneliness, or uncertainty. Yet your brain often reacts as if these modern situations are just as life-threatening as the dangers faced by your ancestors. When you experience fear, a small almond-shaped structure deep inside your brain called the amygdala immediately goes to work. It doesn't wait for logic or careful thinking. It acts first and asks questions later. Within milliseconds, stress hormones flood your body. Your heart beats faster. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tighten. Your senses become sharper. This ancient emergency system is preparing you to fight, flee, or freeze. The remarkable thing is that your brain doesn't always distinguish between physical danger and emotional discomfort. To your nervous system, standing in front of a large audience can feel surprisingly similar to standing in front of a wild animal. This explains why fear often feels so overwhelming, even when we know, logically, that we're safe. Logic lives in the rational part of your brain, but fear begins in the emotional part. By the time your logical mind catches up, your body has already reacted. This is why people sometimes avoid opportunities that could completely change their lives. They're not avoiding reality. They're avoiding the emotional experience that their brain predicts. One of the most fascinating psychological truths is that fear grows in uncertainty. The human brain hates unanswered questions. When information is missing, your mind automatically fills the gaps, and unfortunately, it usually fills them with worst-case scenarios. Imagine receiving a message from your boss saying, "We need to talk tomorrow." Instantly, your mind begins creating stories. Maybe you're getting fired. Maybe you made a terrible mistake. Maybe something is wrong. Hours later, you discover your boss simply wanted to discuss a promotion. The event itself wasn't frightening. The uncertainty surrounding it was. Fear also has a strange relationship with imagination. The same imagination that allows humans to create art, invent technology, and dream about the future can also become a factory for anxiety. Unlike animals, humans can experience fear over events that haven't happened, may never happen, and sometimes couldn't possibly happen. Your imagination is powerful enough to create emotional reactions to fictional futures. In many cases, people don't suffer because of reality. They suffer because of possibilities. Psychologists often describe this as anticipatory fear. Instead of responding to what's happening right now, your brain begins reacting to what might happen tomorrow, next week, or years from now. Ironically, many of the disasters we fear never occur, yet the emotional stress they create is completely real. Your body doesn't care whether the threat exists outside your mind. If your brain believes the threat is real, your nervous system responds accordingly. Another hidden aspect of fear is how quietly it disguises itself. Most people don't wake up saying, "I'm afraid." Instead, fear wears different masks. It appears as perfectionism, convincing you that nothing is ever good enough. It appears as procrastination, whispering that tomorrow is a better time to begin. It appears as overthinking, making every decision feel impossibly complicated. Sometimes it even appears as anger, because anger often feels more powerful than vulnerability. Beneath many behaviors that seem irrational lies one simple emotion that people rarely recognize: fear. Social fear is perhaps one of the strongest forces shaping human behavior. Humans evolved in groups, and for thousands of years, being rejected by the tribe could mean death. Although society has changed dramatically, our brains still crave acceptance. This is why criticism hurts so deeply. It's why embarrassment feels physically painful. It's why people often remain silent even when they know they're right. The fear of social rejection activates many of the same brain regions associated with physical pain. In other words, emotional rejection isn't just in your head. Your brain processes it as something genuinely threatening. But perhaps the greatest illusion about fear is believing that fearless people simply don't experience it. In reality, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to move despite fear. Every successful entrepreneur, athlete, artist, scientist, or leader has experienced fear. The difference is that they stopped treating fear as a stop sign and started seeing it as a signal that they were stepping beyond their comfort zone. Growth and fear often arrive together because anything meaningful usually requires entering unfamiliar territory. Neuroscientists have discovered something encouraging about fear. The brain is remarkably adaptable. Every time you face something that scares you without running away, your brain begins updating its expectations. Over time, the perceived threat becomes smaller. This process, known as exposure, literally rewires neural pathways. Confidence isn't something people are born with. It's something the brain builds through repeated evidence that you can survive discomfort. Every small act of courage teaches your nervous system a powerful lesson. I was afraid, and I was still okay. This explains why avoiding fear almost always makes it stronger. Every time you escape an uncomfortable situation, your brain interprets your escape as proof that the situation was dangerous. The fear becomes reinforced. But every time you stay, even briefly, your brain gathers new evidence that challenges its old assumptions. The prison door begins to open, not because fear disappears, but because you stop obeying it. The truth is that fear will probably never leave your life completely, nor should it. Fear still serves an important purpose. It protects you from genuine danger and reminds you to be cautious when necessary. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. The goal is to recognize when fear is telling the truth and when it's simply repeating outdated survival programming that no longer serves you. The next time fear whispers that you're not ready, that you'll fail, that people will judge you, or that it's safer to stay exactly where you are, remember this: fear speaks with confidence, but it doesn't predict the future. It predicts only what feels familiar. Every extraordinary achievement in human history began with someone who felt afraid and moved forward anyway. Perhaps the question isn't whether fear controls your life. The real question is whether you'll continue giving it permission, because the moment you stop letting fear write your story is the moment you finally begin writing it yourself.